Adam Savage here with another one-day build. I am in my cave, and today's one-day build is a display one-day build. My cave is separated into two broad sections. This is the shop section I'm sitting in now, and just to this side of me, the west of me, is my display section with all of my lit Billy bookcase cabinets from IKEA filled with glass shelves and lit. And because I like the museum type aspect of it, I have started in the last couple of years to take more seriously the display of some of the more precious objects that I have. And I love the way museums display things in carefully soldered brass clips that make sure they don't impart any marks to the piece. I love it when I see the little metal supports for bird skeletons and stuff like that. And one of the first exercises I played with was with this object right here. Now, this is an object of incredible history. This is one of Bob Dylan's harmonicas. Through various channels, a friend of Bob's gave this to me a few years ago. And I had it sitting on a shelf here. And then I was visiting a musician, a famous musician who's a good friend of mine, and he had a Bob Dylan harmonica, and he had it in this big picture box with a sign that said, Bob Dylan's harmonica! And I thought, if he pays that much respect to Bob Dylan's harmonica, what kind of asshole am I that I have it just sitting on a shelf? So I built this display for it, and this is comprised of a very careful little brass holder with a little pressure reliever on the side of the harmonica, and it sits in this bell jar base. And there you have it. That is my Bob Dylan harmonica display. Now, this is just as by way of showing you an example. Today, I am building a new display for a new object I have just got. Recently, I was lucky enough to participate in a performance at New York City's Radio City Music Hall, a legendary palace theater. I mean, it is an unbelievable venue. I had never been inside. It's gorgeous from top to bottom. It's over 100 years old. And the crew there, the local union crew that oversees it, is deeply proud of their beautiful, venerable building. And several of them took pains to show me around at some of the stuff they found most fascinating. So I got this incredible ground level tour of this amazing piece of engineering. And it is a piece of engineering. There are 3 lifts on the stage at Radio City that go up and down like 40 plus feet on these hydraulic and air pressured rams that are over 100 years old. In fact, the hydraulic elevators of aircraft carriers that move planes around, the first ones were based off of Radio City's lift. So during World War II, Radio City Music Hall was a protected site. It was a military secret. Yeah. So as I was getting the tour downstairs of the hydraulics, of the mechanics, the ancient boilers, and the amazing marriage between the old and the modern in order to operate this equipment safely, the guy showing me around was saying that at different seasons, different things can fall through the cracks of the stage. Of course, because these lifts, they move up and down, but there's gaps between them. You have to have a little tolerance, and stuff falls through those gaps. And depending on the season, you find different things. And it turns out that over Christmas, one of the things you find is Rockette jewelry. Yes, the famous New York Rockettes Christmas show happens every Christmas season at Radio City Music Hall. It is a New York tradition, one that I have never partaken in, and I now will, having seen some of the scope and the scale and the amazing performance they do. But here is 2 pairs of Rockette earrings, and they were given to me on my tour, and I am gratefully adding them to my collection. And I thought, I want to make a nice display for these Rockette earrings. And so that is what my one-day build will be today. A display, a proper museum-type display for Rockette earrings. Now, I recognize that these are inexpensive pieces of costume jewelry, but it's the history that they describe that makes them interesting because they're worn by the famous Rockettes. I've got 2 pairs here, and I think I'm just going to make a display for this pair. This pair I will keep nearby, but I'm not going to make a second display. I guess I can. They're clip-on, so I can just wear them for the duration of this build. As for how I'm going to display them, I have an option which I like, which is to display them inside this shadow box here. But then I was thinking, like, what is the best way to display them in a shadow box? And I thought about an object, and I was wondering if it existed, and I went onto Amazon, and sure enough, it does. silicone ears. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a frame for the rockette earrings in the silicone ears. Oh, look at that. Yeah, we'll probably do it like this. Oh, wait. Oops. I was getting it wrong. There we go. That's it. Look at that. So I'm going to display my rockette earrings on the silicone ears, suspended in the shadow box. It's actually going to be a pretty straightforward and quick assembly, but I think the end result's going to look pretty darn cool. It's dusty. I've had this thing for years. I like building displays into these window boxes, these shadow boxes. They're fairly inexpensive. So that one slips in like that and then comes down. Okay, so about that distance apart. Yeah, I think about it like that. About like that. Yeah, let's say by 3 inches. Holes. 2 by 3. 2 by 3. So this. Half-inch there. 3.5. Okay, so 3.5 is the middle, and then 3 and 4. Yeah. In the last few months, I've done a couple of different styrene scratch building videos, and I can't remember if I've actually covered cutting a hole through the middle of styrene, but I am going to cover that right now because it's an important skill to know if you're going to be scratch building with styrene. You don't have to use saws to cut holes in the middle of styrene. You can actually just use, the technique I'm about to show you. But first, let me get this, let me free these 2 pieces of styrene from their home so I can start to work on them individually. Score. Score. This is what I love about styrene. 1 score, pop it out. Ugh, it's the best. Doink. Now I have 2 identical pieces that should fit inside of this. They do. And I'm going to cut out the holes for the ears. I'm going to cut out some ear holes. Obviously, one could laser cut this if one was so inclined, and I certainly could, but at this stage in my life, I just prefer doing it by hand. All right, so now I have a piece of styrene which has the scores for popping out these windows, but if I start to bend this on this, I could easily torque it or break it. So in popping out internal windows, and you could do this with, I've done this with every shape imaginable, from circles to hexagons to squares. Here is my method. I go from one corner to the other, and I simply score an X across the diagonals of my rectangle. And I want this score to be fairly deep. With styrene, you can get a good snap with even a shallow score, but I want this thing to favor breaking on these lines first. So I'm going to give it a double score and cut quite deep, actually. Okay, so now I've got a window with these 2 center holes, and I'm going to just start manipulating it across those until I hear a telltale snap. Oh, there we go. I felt it rather than heard it. There we go. Okay, so you can see now it's starting to separate. So again, I'm just sort of riding it along those seams without trying to get them to extend any farther, because styrene breaks can propagate and you don't want them to do that. This is something you'll get better at with experience. Now, I've actually separated across both of the axes of both of my X's. So now popping out these windows should be as simple as, there we go, popping out a triangle. I may have to do a little cleanup on this at the other end, but still, it's a lot easier than using a scroll saw, I'll tell you that. There goes one. There goes the other. There's the third. There we go. So I got a little bit of cleanup right there, and there. Yeah, not bad. The other one. This is really neat when you start cutting out large circles out of big things. When I was doing the Weebos for Flubber, this was how we cut out all the internal holes on the thing. They were all done by hand with an X-Acto blade. It's really, you can do some fairly sensitive little cutouts. It's quite a versatile technique. There we go, and boom. Now that's going to be the hero side. I can't even describe to you how soft these ears are. They really they feel exactly like real ears, except without the cartilage. All right, so look at that. Hoo-hoo. So absurd. So absurd. Ooh, 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 oh. Okay, come on. There we go. It fits inside this window box. That's looking pretty good. Needs to be just about 1 inch and 50 thou. That means I need this whole distance to be 1 inch and 50 thou. And since the glass, yeah, I'm going to have to put the glass on the bottom so it's a little bit under pressure. Make a mark here. All right. That's nice all the way around. So all I got to do is take this frame down to that line, and this whole thing should assemble quite nicely. My frame is cut. Let's assemble this guy. There we go. Perfect. Oh, I love it. I'm so happy about this. It's great. Let's get this a little bit better. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so, oops. Get a little air on this. Yep, a little bit of positive pressure. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. My museum type display for rockhead earrings. I'm really pleased with how that came out. Loves me some shadow boxes.